Alright, so pretty much this video is something that I've been planning to make since July 30th of this year, which is my official 1-year review with the camera that we're recording on right now, the Canon R5. Oh, it says R5. This is officially Canon EOS. Now, the reason why I didn't publish the video back during July was purely because there were a lot of firmware updates coming out for the R5 that I guess I kind of just wasn't ready to make a 1-year review until I officially, updated the firmware to its latest and greatest, which right now it is 1.4.0. It's pretty much firmware 1.4 that it's currently on. And I gotta say, the Canon R5 has definitely improved a lot, especially within the past year, purely just through the firmware updates alone. But let's go somewhere else to talk more about the R5, and later on in this video we're going to be having a very special guest who you guys probably do know from a year previous, so let's go somewhere else. Alright, so I guess while I was just switching locations, I didn't realize how much the sun just set. So pretty much the sun is already gone, but let us get back into talking about the beautiful camera that I'm recording on right now, the Canon EOS R5. So pretty much a little bit of some history about the Canon EOS R5 is that it was originally launched on July 9th. That was pretty much the announcement date of exactly what the R5 has in store, and July 30th was the official release date for people to get their hands on this beautiful camera. And luckily, I was one of the few that actually was able to get it on day 1 of release, since the thing about the R5 is that it automatically sold out within the first day, and people had to wait until like later December of that year, towards the early 2021, just to get their hands on the R5. So again, the R5 was a very hot seller and sold out extremely quickly. And for those who know more about this camera, it was more heavily marketed towards filmmakers like myself and videographers, pretty much just filmmakers in general, that this camera is going to be the best camera for us, right? It can do 4K 120, dual pixel autofocus, which is kind of like a dream spec for a lot of people because you're getting a pretty high resolution and a really high frame rate to work with. So if you're doing a lot of B-roll or slow motion stuff, 4K 120 is going to be really great for you. And honestly, just thinking about 8K RAW from last year coming to this year, it's still mind-blowing to me. And I look at this camera, I stare at it, and I'm just like so impressed that a camera of this size, and also at its price tag, it can actually do really good, almost cinema-like 8K RAW out of this camera without an external recorder or anything. So it's just really good. However, that all kind of just tumbled down, especially when everyone was hearing about the super tight recording limits, and of course, the biggest headliner of all, the overheating. So when it came to the overheating part of the Canon EOS R5, that was, again, as I said, the biggest headliner of all time with this camera, because it was kind of like the last thing a lot of people suspected, since Canon was really hyping up this camera, and it kind of just crashed and burned, especially when people were talking about the overheating, the recording limits just not, kind of being cohesive, and it was just really all over the place. But for me, using this camera, honestly, I gotta be honest with you guys, I have never once experienced the overheating with this particular camera. The only time I actually ever got the overheating warning was the day that I went to Mount Tamalpais, which was the first time I vlogged with the R5, and that day I was pushing the R5 extremely heavily. Like, I was doing 4K HQ, 4K 60, 120, 8K RAW. Like, again, I was completely pushing that camera to its limits to exactly see what it can handle and how far I can push it. And only at the end of the day, like around sunset time, was when I officially got that overheating warning that, okay, it's time to turn off the camera, because you don't want anything to happen to the sensor or the processor or anything to happen to the camera internally. So obviously I turned it off. But even just that alone was still really good, because I was able to push it quite a bit and it was able to handle it pretty well. And honestly, ever since that day, I have never gotten the overheating warning, purely just because I understood the R5. I understood exactly why you can't push it that much, why you can't record everything in 4K 120 or 8K. Like, it makes sense. And the more you understand how to use the Canon R5, just the easier it becomes, and you understand the capabilities and the limitations this camera has. And having that knowledge, it just really helps out so much. But a huge game changer for me with the Canon R5 was getting the Adamas Ninja 5. The Adamas Ninja 5 was a complete game changer for the R5 because, again, one of my biggest kind of just downsides with the R5 besides the whole overheating claims was the recording limit still not being removed, and even like standard 1080p and 4K. Personally for me, I just really wanted that 30-minute record limit just to go away. I understand why it's there for like 4K 120 and 8K, just because it's really heavy file sizes, it heats up the camera internally, and obviously it makes sense. But just in those lower modes, like I wish they didn't have that in there. But having the Atomos Ninja 5 helped out so much because I could bypass the 30-minute record limit, and it helps so much with Sunkum and I's podcast, Brown Boys Theory, especially since our podcasts go for about like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours sometimes. And especially I don't want to have to be thinking that, oh, I have to hit the record button every 30 minutes. And of course we don't have someone behind the camera to hit that record button for us. So again, I'm super thankful that I was able to get my hands on the Ninja 5. Since it just helped out so much, we were able to just record a lot more than we thought. And it is definitely a recommended accessory. Not even recommended, I think it's required for you guys to get an Atomos Ninja 5 with the Canon R5. Again, I just really wish in either 1080p or 4K they can just remove it. If you guys are watching this, pretty please just remove it in 1080p at least, and I'll be more than happy with the R5. But just because of that, that is honestly my only downside with this camera. But other than the downsides, a lot of things have improved about the Canon R5 since release, especially the firmware updates. Now, one of the biggest firmware updates that came out was version 1.3, which finally introduced Canon Log 3, which is exactly what we're recording on right now. Originally, when I had Canon Log on the R5, I didn't know if anything was better than Canon Log. But as soon as Canon Log 3 came into the R5, but again, I was just blown away just to see exactly how much more we can get within the image in Canon Log 3. God dang, there is a plane over there, so that kind of sucks. But yeah, so again, Canon Log 3 has been a very big thing for the R5, and of course there have been some minor increments, but I think that has been one of the biggest firmware updates for this camera is getting Canon Log 3. And also another big one was the original first firmware update for the R5, which was like 1.1, something like that. But that was kind of just making sure that the overheating wasn't really because of internal timers, it's because of the outside awareness and pretty much exactly how much the camera is recording at that time. So a lot of the firmware updates have helped with the overheating and also with getting a better image out of the camera. And I know for a lot of people, when it came to the Canon R5, I know everyone wanted to record a lot more in 8K RAW and pretty much just like 8K in general, since that was the biggest headliner for the Canon R5. And originally when it came out, like again, you had to just wait for the camera to kind of just recover from how much you've already recorded so far just for you to get back into 8K. But finally, after a year later, Atomos has actually done something about this issue, and they released the Atomos Ninja 5 Plus. So the Ninja 5 Plus, oh god, there are so many birds over there. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but Jesus Christ, they're just like all flying away. God, I can't even make this video now. Jeez. Anyways, but the Atomos Ninja 5 Plus is pretty much way more expensive than the model that I own, which is the original Atomos Ninja 5. And pretty much the Atomos Ninja 5 kind of just takes it up a level because it can actually handle 8K footage. And once you insert your SSD into the Ninja 5, you can pretty much just record until the battery dies or your storage gets filled up. So having the Ninja 5 Plus is really great. Again, some downsides to it is the price. It's like $1,500, while the Atomos Ninja 5 that I got was like $500 to $600. So again, if you guys are willing to put in an extra $1,000 just to get yourself an external recorder with the R5 to record practically unlimited 8K, go ahead. But for me, I think I'm just going to stick with the Atomos Ninja 5 since I don't use the Ninja 5 a whole lot. I only use it especially whenever I'm indoors inside the studio or obviously filming the podcast. So those are really the only times I use it. But other than that, especially when I'm out and about, I don't really use the Atomos Ninja 5 that much. So for me, it's just not very practical. But maybe for you, you might hook up your external recorder to like a gimbal or the camera itself, and you might be recording a lot with that. So if it works out for you, go for it. It's pretty expensive, but for my style of shooting, it just doesn't really work out that well. But the thing is, I've kind of just talked about the negatives with the R5 quite a bit here and there, but some of the best positives is that, again, as I said, the R5 has been by far the best camera I've ever used in my entire life. Like this is it's like an absolute game-changing device, because previously, I was just recording on like my older smartphones before even the Galaxy S20, as you guys see right here. But I had like an old camcorder, and then I was using we got a Canon 70D in 2017, and then in 2018 we got the Sony a6000, which was the first camera that I really took the time to learn how to get a cinematic image out of a mirrorless camera. And then finally implementing my skills into the R5, it was so worth it, because the R5 pretty much just does everything that I want it to do. It's such a great camera, especially when it comes to the user interface. It's so beginner friendly, and it's just so much easier to just put in the settings that I want compared to a Sony camera, since I just need to scroll through the settings just like that. People have asked me, am I going to be buying a second one of this camera? And my answer is most likely not, purely just because of the recording limit in 1080p or 4K. If they were to remove the recording limits in either of those modes, honestly, I might just buy myself a second one of the R5, since now you can get like a refurbished one for like, you know, $3,500, $3,600. Still pricey, but at least it's cheaper than a brand new one. But the reason why I'm holding off on the R5 is because there have been a lot of rumors talking about a camera which is supposed to come in the near future, pretty much like I think the first quarter of 2022, which is indeed the Canon R5C. So the R5C is practically what it's in the name. It is going to be a cinematic version of the R5, which means you're getting practically the same shooting modes, 4K 120, 8K. I don't know about 8K RAW, but pretty much it's going to be the same recording modes, probably a slightly bigger body, but there's going to be no recording limits, no overheating. So it is going to be pretty much the R5 that all of us have wanted for a long time. So that is really, really great news for a lot of us filmmakers who've been wanting the R5 to be more of a filmmaking camera. But some good news about Canon is that they did indeed recently announce the Canon R3, which is actually their first mirrorless camera that doesn't have a recording limit in their video modes. So that does give me a lot of confidence, especially with the upcoming R5C to not have a recording limit. So hopefully with that, you know, it will be nicer with the R5C. Again, if it is going to be too expensive, I'm probably not going to get that camera, but if it is, you know, justifiable for its price, I might just go for it. But anyways guys, we've talked a lot about the R5, but I'm going to come back here tomorrow to the same spot, and I am bringing someone that you guys probably have seen from one of my videos last year, kind of talking about the R5 and also talking about his experience with Canon. So we'll see you guys then. Alright guys, so I'm gonna have to put a little quick pause on the video purely just because when I went to go shoot with the person that I was talking about, which is Brandon Butler, you guys might remember him from my Canon R5 versus RP video, you know, the cheapest Canon full frame mirrorless camera versus the most expensive, which was honestly a very successful video, and I'm super glad for those who actually checked it out. But pretty much I met up with Brandon at Folsom Lake and kind of just like talked about our experience with my R5, his experience with his RP, kind of just like talking about it, like how it helped us in our professional fields, and you know, kind of like the experiences that it has gotten us and everything like that. And pretty much what happened was that I actually forgot to turn on autofocus on my lens. So pretty much that entire video that I did with Brandon, which was like maybe 20 minutes long or something like that, the entire thing is just completely out of focus. So there's just like a few clips here and there of, you know, how we look like filming. Obviously you guys can't even see us, which is kind of sad. But also a nice little update with Brandon is that he actually did get his real estate license, so now he is a real estate agent. So, you know, if you guys are looking for houses here in the Sacramento area, definitely go hit up Brandon. You know, his IG will be down in the video or in the description. But pretty much he has been talking about, you know, both his photography and his automotive stuff when it comes to car photography, and also for real estate, since he kind of wants to also start getting into real estate photography as well. So again, pretty much both our cameras have helped us out in our careers, and it kind of just goes to show that, you know, if you're mainly a photographer, going for a camera just like the RP is more than enough for what you need. You don't necessarily need an R5. But if you are a video and filmmaker shooter like myself, then definitely you want to invest in both lenses and obviously the camera body as well. But pretty much the latest firmware for the R5, which is 1.5, pretty much helps in autofocus performance. So the autofocus back then, like now, it's even better than it was before, which doesn't even make any sense because the autofocus on the R5 has been incredibly amazing and there's been like zero issues with it at all. So again, just some autofocus updates. Canon, please just remove the record limit in 1080p or 4K. That's like the only negative that I have about the R5, but everything else, it's amazing. The 4K is amazing, the 4K 120, 8K RAW, like it's such an incredible camera, and I'm so glad that they came out with it. And honestly, it's the first camera that really pushed the competition with both Nikon and Sony, because now Sony has the A1, Nikon has the Z9 I think right now. So again, I'm so glad that Canon was the one to really push the competition for us to start getting into the 8K mirrorless world and kind of go beyond that. So I'm super excited to see where this whole competition drives. And I know Canon's got the R5C in the works, so definitely that is something in the works that, who knows, maybe I might be getting, but we'll see when it comes out. But yeah, but also you guys can probably tell that this image is a bit different because we are recording it on a new camera that I picked up, which is the Lumix S5. So if you guys want me to make a video regarding the camera that I'm recording on right now, the Lumix S5? Let me know down in the comments. I purely picked this up so that way it is pretty much my official replacement to the Sony a6000. I'll still use the a6000 here and there, but pretty much this is like my new B cam, future C cam. So yeah, it's just a new side camera that I have, and also for top-down shots whenever I do unboxing and reviews, this is going to be the camera that's on it. So yeah, super glad I picked up the S5. The colors on this thing are amazing. I know the biggest thing with this camera is the autofocus. It's not as great as Canon or Sony's, but the image quality is still awesome. It gets 10-bit video and yeah, 4K 60 and everything like that. So let me know down in the comments below. But again, to end off this video, the R5, by far the best camera that I've ever used. Even though I got this new camera, this camera is definitely not replacing my R5. My R5 is definitely going to still be with me. And definitely later down the line, I will invest into more RF lenses, since I really do love RF lenses. Currently, I have the RF1535, probably be getting the 24-70 next. So again, super huge fan of Canon lenses. And yeah, that is going to do it for us on this video. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And I will catch you guys on the next video. Peace.